I might have to suck it in to get up to the table.
That's what I'm thinking.
All right. Well, if you're ready, we'll talk fishing.
I'm ready.
Okay. Well, good. Well, welcome back to Brilliant Fishing. Today, I'm here with Newell Montgomery. Many of you, if you fish in this area, I'm sure you've met Newell. You've seen his shining face around the lake. You've seen him at crappie tournaments, and been fishing around here for a long time, but I'm not going to tell that story. I'm going to let him tell that story. So we got Newell with us today. He's going to talk to us about some things that he's involved in. He's going to talk about the Crappie Trail. We're going to talk about some tournament fishing. And if he'll let me today, we're going to pick his brain about some fall crappie fishing, which is just around the corner. So, yeah, we got a lot to talk about today. It's going to be fun.
It is. Sure is.
Well, it's a privilege to have you with us today.
Too,
glad you could make it. Glad we could get our schedules to line up.
Yeah.
It's hot out there.
It is. It's warm, man. I'm ready for fall that you mentioned that.
I'm telling you what, I can't get here soon enough.
No.
I'm about done with this 90 degrees and yeah, humidity off the charts.
Yeah.
You can still catch the fish this time of year, but
oh yeah, they on lots of brush piles. There's a lot of people know that you can YouTube anything about crappie fishing now,
right? And
they'll put you right on them. You just got to find the structure.
Yeah,
and you can catch fish from now and until they start roaming.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not a off time for the fish. It's just if you can stand to be out there.
Correct. Yeah, and the boat traffic.
And oh my goodness, the jet skis and everything. Yep. Well, before we, and I do want to talk about fishing. Before we get talking about fall fishing, tell us a little bit about. I mean, I know you've been fishing around here for a long time, but how did you get your start in fishing? I mean, have you always fished? You fished with your dad when you were a kid, or just?
Well, my grandpa and I, we fished, ponds. We were pond hoppers, and and we'd go to the lake every now and then, occasional. If he hadn't been fishing in a while, I'll say, well, where are we going to go today? He said, well, we're going to be freshwater spot fishermen. I always thought, freshwater spot fishermen? He said, yeah, you just go see where everybody is and fish their spots. And that just stuck with me for years and years.
I think there's still people who do that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But no, I got into it actually, through crappie.com.
Okay.
I met so many guys. I helped, do quite a bit of socials, Lake Norman, High Rock area. Just met some great friends there on crappie.com. I'm still friends with a lot of them. Lynn Cook, I know a lot of people on crappie.com know him, and I talk to him probably, if not once a week, twice a week.
Right.
So it's just that community got me involved because, all the bass fishermen, they were so secretive, they just...
Not bass fishermen.
Yeah, bass fishermen,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so the crappie community was just, it was seemed like my kind of people. I just love being around people, love talking fishing. So that's kind of how I got into it, was from crappie.com, believe it or not.
Well, good. I mean, growing up, was it always crappie for you, or did you?
We pond hop, just whatever would bite.
Whatever would bite?
Yeah, whatever would bite.
Okay.
And then I guess it was 2000, I want to say 11 or 12. I saw this ad for this big tournament, this big crappie tournament coming to High Rock. And I had a 1986 C-Nymph with a 50 horsepower motor on it.
Okay.
Everybody still knows it as Old Smoky. You crank that sucker up and
no more mosquitoes.
No more mosquitoes. For around the whole dock. So this crappie tournament was put on, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, by Ed Duke. He's well known around.
Yeah, old Ed, right?
Yeah. He's a good dude. They were putting this tournament on, and I think it was the Southern Crappie. I can't remember if it was association or the Southern Crappie Tournament.
Right.
So I got this idea, I'm going to go see where all these crappie boats are, see what this is all about.
Right.
So I put in at Buttle Creek. I know a lot of people watch this video or your podcast, fish a lot of high rock.
Sure.
So I put it at Buttle Creek, but I made sure, I had one 6-gallon gas can in my boat.
Right.
So I went to Walmart, got me another 6-gallon can so I could and I took another 5-gallon can because I was determined to find out where all these crappie boats were. So here I go, put it at Buttle Creek, slam to the back of Abbott's.
Right.
Nothing, nobody. Went all the little pockets in Abbott's. Under the bridge, went down to Flat Swamp, all the way back in the back of Flat Swamp, no crappie boats. Come up, started going in all the creeks, still no crappie boats. Now, I didn't know where Panther Creek and all that stuff was at the time. Went all back in those,
right.
Went up to Crane Creek, went all the way back to like where Water's Edge Grill is now, looking, still no crappie boats. And I'm thinking,
really?
Have I got this the right?
You got the right lake?
The right day, the right lake.
Right.
And then I come out of Crane Creek and was going up towards Swearing, and there all the boats were from Swearing up,
Okay.
And so I just kind of eased my way through there, looking at these. Man, these are some nice boats. Like, 16 rods hanging off of them, people trolling, people tight lining.
Yeah.
And I went up in this little cut, and there was this white Triton sitting in there. I was like, man, that is a nice boat. And got to look at it, and this old guy looked like Santa Claus. And I was thinking, and they were pulling corks out the back in shallow water. And I thought, what in the world are they doing? Pulling corks. I'd never seen it before. And so I kind of eased over there, and this guy yelled, "How you doing, young man?" And I said, "I'm doing good, just watching." All of a sudden, one of them corks went down, and he grabbed one, and it was the biggest fish I ever seen in my life. And I was used to probably 9-inch fish, 10-inch fish. Them are slabs. They still. I mean, they are.
Yeah.
But then I saw this fish come out, this crappie, and I was like, "Is that really a crappie?"
Yeah.
I mean, I'd never seen a crappie that big.
Right.
And then so I went to the weigh-in, and I called my buddy. I was like, "Dude, there are so many 3-pound crappie." Because I thought a 1.5-pound fish. A lot of people.
Yeah, right.
I caught 10 3-pounders today.
Yeah, right,
what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And they're 1.5 pounds. And I was looking at these fish, these crappie, these men were weighing in, and I was like, I never realized a crappie got that big, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I want to catch them.
I want to learn how to catch crappie that size.
That's awesome.
So that's how it all kind of.
Okay, I could see how that would spark a person's interest.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So that was like 2011, 2012, and
yeah.
So that's when it started for you.
That's when it started.
Okay.
And then the Carolina Crappie Association. So that the guy that was in that white Triton, I seen a post about it on crappie.com, and I seen this guy named Cap was on his, on his. He was commenting on it. So I private messaged him, and he's definitely the first person that got me into tournament crappie fishing. He kind of, took me under his wing a little bit and kind of gave me some pointers, and so that's what it took. To this day, I'll always remember him. I always remember him helping me out. He was the very first person, and so he put on the Carolina Crappie Association.
Okay.
And so that next year, whatever it was, there was a tournament on High Rock. So I was bound and determined to fish that tournament. So another guy on crappie.com that I met, his screen name was Alamance Creek, Brad Faircloth. We teamed up because we were fishing and end up finding some good fish way up the river, and end up, this is probably my probably the very first tournament that he and I won, and it's probably one of the most memorable.
2013, March 2013.
Yeah, so that was, that was a good highlight of my start to crappie fishing. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that was within almost a year of starting.
Yeah, we lucked up, and blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
That's right. There's hope for you too.
Yeah,
and me. Well, you mentioned about people, like that guy taking you under his wing and helping you get started. I've heard from other people that, you've done that for them. And, I had Chris Miller in the other day, and he mentioned that you got him started.
Yeah. He was a bass fisherman.
We won't hold it against him.
No, I'm glad that, he turned from the dark side. You know, them 10-pound bass are really good to eat. You know, that's what I tell all my bass fishermen. You know, it's so funny.
I got some good recipes for those.
Next time you see a die-hard bass fisherman say, man, I caught a 10-pounder the other day.
It's like,
man, that thing was like a trout fillet, you know, or something. You know,
you might as well tell them you had a good recipe for a bald eagle.
So it's funny. You know, I love messing with people. I just love having fun. But yeah, Chris, you know, Shane and I, we had some great times, and he and I were taking some fish to Chris on a dock. In Crane Creek where he lived, Crow Creek, and there was some crappie underneath the dock, and then Chris was like, "What's crappie under the dock? What are you talking about?" So he dropped his jig. This is live scope. You know, live scope had just come out. Shane and I, we were trying to hide it, you know, like we had something secret, which, you know. So he dropped his jig down, and we're like, "No, move to the left, move to the right."
Right.
And then he ended up hooking a fish, but he couldn't get it up between the dock, and that did him in.
That was it.
Like, that was it. That was the beginning of Chris Miller. And you know, he is probably one of the dudes around High Rock that has helped a lot of people out also. Like,
very helpful.
You know, he's a very helpful person.
Yeah. Speaking of that, he told me if you came in to ask you if the fish were shallow.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you know, we got a little place. Everybody, like, some of the guys know Newell's Nook, and you know, so it's I love shallow fishing, you know, and the person that got me into that was definitely Rod King.
Okay.
I know, the Big Eye Crappie Man, and that was kind of, you know, we started tournament fishing, Brad and I, then it went to Shane and I, and we started fishing the Big Eye Crappie Man series. $25. I think Shane might have mentioned it in one of your podcasts, or Chris or somebody, but
sounds familiar.
You know, it's Jordan and Harris lakes now, and you know, I don't get down there as much as I want to, but when we go down there, it's just like a family reunion. You know, and that's just what, you know, really has my heart on crappie fishing, because I cannot see those guys for, you know, a year or two, and it's just like we pick right back up where we left off. You know, so it's like a family.
That's good. No, it's nice to have that, you know, that camaraderie and fellowship centered around, you know, common activity. Chris also said you're the man to come if you're looking for an egg roll.
Oh man,
he said
Shane, you know, Charlie Custom Magic Jigs. Man, his wife can make some egg rolls like no tomorrow. We ordered, Shane, he ordered, I can't remember, it was 100, and all of us got together, and man, we just threw down on those things. Like, I'm talking about, like, so we were there cooking them, and I don't know, I walked away or something, and I'm bad about sticking stuff in my pocket.
Okay.
You know, so I walked away, and I don't know, Shane can attest to this too. Like, I'll have a whole slew of jigs and stuff in my pocket, and I had no idea how they get there. You know, I think Shane put them in there or whatever. But anyway, I walked away, and I turned around, and I come back, and I reached in my pocket and had an egg roll in my pocket. honest story. I had an egg roll in my pocket, and I don't even know. We got to talking.
Saving it for later,
so
I
that's
guess.
probably what he's talking about.
That's probably what it
for
was.
For sure.
Well, let's circle back around. I think where we started, we were talking about transition from summer to fall. I mean, today, as we're recording this, it's August 1st, and it's like 90 degrees outside. Fish is still in that summertime pattern. You know, they're hanging tight to deep brush. I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them. So what are we looking at here in the upcoming weeks? I mean, it's going to change over. What are we going to see, or what do you think that pattern's going to hold?
You know, in my experience, you know, there's some tournaments coming up, and I'm pretty sure, unless somebody can find some fish shallow, that, you know, they will be on brush. You know, I help run the Yadkin River Crappie Trail. We have one at the end of September, and it's going to be, you know, you're going to catch a lot of fish on brush, and the small brush, you know, that's kind of the secret sometimes. The smaller brush, the laid down brush, hold the bigger fish. You know, even some of the brush that you're like, oh, I don't see any fish on it, but then you put a jig over it and you see that You know, especially on live scope. You know, check that brush. If it's laying down in, I don't know, 15, 18 foot, there you might not see a fish sitting above it because they're still just waiting. You know, they're ambush. You'll see that fish come out of the brush, and it may be the difference between 5th place and 1st place.
Wow. Okay.
You know, and then you know, I think, I mean, there's a lot of people more, you know, knowledgeable than I am, but then they'll start the wolf packs, you know, getting in the, you know, getting the little groups together, and then that's when everybody just, I mean, temperatures get in the, you know, the 70s, 75s, 80s during the day, and kind of in the 50s at night, 60s at night, and then they kind of, you know, those fish start wolf packing together, and then, you know, that's when it's fun.
Right, you can sort of chase them down. And, and no, that's more of a, you're talking about wolf packs. These are more like out in open water.
Correct.
They come off
Open
the brush,
water.
chasing bait. Yeah. So, yeah, I've noticed, and I'm really not a tournament fisherman, but I've noticed, like, you know, November, late October, November, even, and from there on until it gets really, really cold. I mean, you'll see those fish, those bigger ones out, maybe in the main channel, out there chasing schools of bait. Yeah,
and speaking of that, you know, it was a tournament at Lake Wiley, and I saw this guy in a red Ranger. He was out in the middle of the lake, and I thought, what in the world? This was pre-live scope, matter of fact, and I thought, what in the world is he doing out there in 50 foot of water? You know, this is kind of a little secret for people that, you know, do watch your podcast, give them a little, you know. And he was out there trolling in 50 foot of water. And I thought, what in the world is this guy? And come to find out, I didn't know him at the time. And his name was Mike Huffstetler.
Okay.
He's from South Carolina, you know, a really good troller, longliner. And he was out there trolling. I'm giving the secrets away, but, you know, everybody kind of knows now with live scope. But he was, and I seen him catch a fish and another fish, and I'm thinking, you know, what in the world is this guy doing in 50 foot of water? And then I got to talking to him later, and he was like, I was riding down the lake and saw those fish out there on he had one of those flasher fish finders.
Okay.
He said, you know, he can run, you know, on plane pretty good, and he said he kept seeing little flashes on his fish finder, 8 to 10 foot deep, just everywhere. Really? He said he turned around, he started long line trolling through there in 50 foot of water, and he come in good in the tournament.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So that's crazy.
You know, check out that deep water. I mean, don't hesitate to you know, go check it if they're not on brush. I mean, that's
that's interesting. That does give you another thing to look at.
Yeah.
That's pretty
wild.
But
those guys, you know, pre-live scope, you know, you hear the GOAT, you know, hear people say GOAT, greatest of all time. You know, the Cap that helped me get into it, the Nick Babin. There's these different guys back in the day, the Mike Huffstetler, Ray Coon. You know, I'm missing so many people. Freddie Sinclair, you know, Ed Duke. Those people, you know, we can throw the live scope down in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, decide if we're going to fish there or not in a tournament. Those guys, you know, they knew the patterns. You know, like they didn't have the internet like we do to say, or like this, you know, let's look at a podcast and see what these guys do or these fish do. Yeah. They were the real, well, I mean, you know, I'm not saying live scopers aren't real. Yeah, you know, I'm a diehard live scoper. Sure. But those guys, I mean, they were just amazing to watch pre-live scope. Man, like Tom Sprouse, them dudes, they will put it on you. Like, you know, when you come to a tournament, you know, you're like, oh man, they're such and such, you know, I don't have any chance. But then, you know, as you practice and as you talk to guys and as guys help you, then you get more confident. You know, that's a lot of thing with tournament crappie fishing now, in my opinion, is, you know, they see the Chris Miller, they see the Kevin Blevins now, they see the, you know, the other guys fishing other trails that are really, really good, and they're like, man, I don't have a chance, you know. But you just, you know, you got to make those friendships, make those bonds, and you know, even if you feel like you don't have a chance in some tournaments, make a little side bet with your buddy. You know, like, hey, you know, you want to put $20 up on this, and that's how you get better. You know, because you don't want to lose your $20. $20, man.
That's right.
You know?
That's true. That's true. Yeah, it would put would sort of build a fire under you to
Correct.
do better for sure.
And like I said, I've made so many great friends, you know, and I'm sure with anything running a tournament, you're going to make some enemies too sometimes. But, you know, ultimately my ultimate dream is just for all of us to get together, have fun, fish, and, you know, just that's why I love tournament crappie fishing. I'm not very competitive. Like, I love getting out there. You know, I get there early. I'm, you know, myself and 2 other guys, Ron and Matt, we run the Yadkin River Crappie Trail. Get there early, you know, get everybody signed up, going on. And there's been plenty of times that guys like, hey man, I haven't been in like a month. Is there anything? And I was like, yeah, I'll tell them exactly what the fish are doing. And no, I'm not going to say, well, here's the GPS coordinate.
Right, yeah,
you know,
here's a couple pins.
Yeah, you know, but I'll say, you know, this is what I found. And, you know, maybe it can point them in the right direction, you know, and you know, the one good thing, I guess, about, you know, we were talking about this earlier about running a tournament trail, usually the last one to leave. So I'm like, oh, that person's, look at that brush pile they're sitting on, you know, or look, man, I've done past them. I remember that spot. It's kind of like you was talking about Tony Sharon being a game warden.
Yeah, that's right. You check in their coolers when they're at the secret spot. Yeah.
So then, you know, we're usually the first ones to come in, and just like, you know, with you being a preacher and trying to spread the love of Jesus to people. I mean, you're there early Sunday mornings. You're, you know,
late to lunch.
Correct. Right. You're
for sure.
You're trying to help people. Yeah. You know, trying to help them grow, and there's a lot of people, like, even, you know, like Scott Allen. I mean, you know, I've known him since 1998. He actually did some signs for me. The Signs by Tomorrow guy. A lot of people know him. Okay. You know, he wanted to get into crappie fishing, so I tried to help him. You know, just like you have people young in Christ that, you know, and now you see them and they're like, you know, prospering and blossoming with, you know, the things that you kind of helped them with. You know.
Sure. And that's something. I mean, you kind of mentioned in the faith aspect, if you want to kind of speak to that. I mean, I know that just spending time with you, and I've gotten to know you a little bit, and one of the first things recognized about you is that you're you know, also a follower of Jesus, and didn't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, or, you know, how that plays into your fishing, or
yeah, well, you know, like I say, I'm not perfect by no means. I sin just like any other, you know, any other person does sometime, but there's just this inner, you know, voice of the Lord talking to you that, you know it's not right when you but we're not perfect, you know. We're in a fallen world, and you know, there's some things in the past, even with crappie fishing, that I wish had went a different way, you know. But, you know, there's things in anybody's life that, you know, they're struggling with, or they're having something going on, and it just takes time. You know, it takes the Lord to intervene, and takes time to you know, renew some things that may not have went right in the past. You know, so I don't know. I love just seeing, you know, people recognize that. I guess that, you know, man, he might be he is a little different, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it is I mean, it's something that is important. I mean, you know, fishing is important, but you know, it's not as important as our faith.
Correct.
And so I think,
you know, you and I were talking about earlier. I was like, yeah, you know, I kind of feel like a preacher sometimes. You know, I'm sure you get the complaints and. You know, helping run a tournament trail, you get the complaints.
Nobody ever complains in a church or a tournament, right?
Correct. Yeah, you know, you should be doing this a different way, or you know. But ultimately, in the end, you know, we all have this common, you know, like your congregation or our tournament fishing. We all have this one thing that we have in common, you know, and things can get rough and rocky a little bit, but you know, we all have this special bond that something connects us back to that person, if that makes sense. I'm hoping not.
No, that makes 100% sense. Yeah, I agree.
So just like, you know, crappie fishing for me is, you know, everybody's so busy during the week, you know, and then that 1 or 2 times a month, there's some great tournament trails in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and that bond is just kind of inseparable, you know, there's so many friends that I feel like I could call in the middle of the night and they would be there, like, even if they're 2 hours away, like they'll be like, I'll be there in 2 hours and 10 minutes. So it's definitely been a blessing.
Sure.
The whole crappie fishing aspect of things.
Absolutely. So, you know, and I think a lot of times too, the faith that we have, you know, plays out in our fishing, or it should. And I'm like you too, you know, we never get it 100% right. Yeah. And we always have things, wish I'd have done a better job of that, or this or that. But, you know, one of the things that, you know, and he won't mind me saying this, but like one of the things that Chris Miller told me about you, he said Newell would rather not fish to make sure that other people are having a good time. And I think that's a testimony to the Lord working in your life, that, you know, a lot of times, you know, obviously we love to fish.
Oh yeah,
but you know, there's something too about serving other people.
Correct.
That the Lord does in and through us, which I think is real cool, and it's a great testimony. And yeah, so, you
know, just like there was Charles Harding and Ed Smith, you know, they have been around for years and years and years, and they had a battery issue, and, you know, we made sure that they had that taken care of. Took a battery, it was a tournament, you know, tournament morning, made sure that they had, you know, everything good to go before they got out there on the water. And I try to tell people, you know, if you got any problems on the water, you know, just call me. Might not come pick you up till after the weigh-in.
I'm gonna catch that 2-pounder first.
What do you got? You know, like if you got less than I do, then, oh yeah, I'll come get you.
Well, how heavy is your bag?
Yeah. So I mean, like I say, I do love that aspect. I think more than fishing. I mean, I you know, just like I said, we go different places, and the crappie fishing community is just so welcoming. You know, like I said, you know, I keep going back. There's things that I wish that would have been different over the last 10, 12 years, and but, you know, the Lord will all work it out eventually.
Yeah, I agree. So we've talked a little bit about fall fishing. We've talked about faith. We've talked about how you got started in fishing. A lot of different things. But if I could circle back around here just for a minute, let's talk a little bit about. I always like to quiz people when they come in, and like, what tips do you have? Struggling to catch fish. You know, what's some good things that a person can do to?
I would probably say, you know, this generation, you know, we do have live scope now. So just move. I mean, just move as fast as you can.
Okay.
You know, check this spot for 5 minutes, check this spot for 10 minutes, because now, you know, used to when we were tight lining, you had to put out 8 rods, your partner had to put out 6 or 8 rods to check the fish. But now with live scope, man, you can just move here, move there, move here, move there, you know. Right. And then another thing that I feel like is very important is, you know, I'm sure that a lot of people in YouTube channels and stuff like that people follow, the size of the bait matters. You know, like if sometimes a fish wants big bait, but these black crappie, seems like 8 times out of 10 they want something small. Like, you know, if you can get the smallest minnow you can, or the smallest little jig or jig head you can, sometimes that's the difference in, you know, coming in 7th or 8th place and winning a tournament. Really? Yeah, just you know, downsize, and you know, it seems like they like a smaller profile bait. And I don't really think, to be honest with you, I have, and a lot of guys that may watch this, they know I only fish with 2 colors. Really? Yeah, I have a purple and green and a chartreuse and monkey milk. And if they don't, down with live scope, if they don't bite that, or a minnow, you know, a small minnow, if they don't bite that, I mean, I just move on. There's, I mean, really, I mean, if that presentation, if you know that jig comes down from what you've seen before and you can't catch that fish, I mean, you just going to have to leave them alone.
It just ain't eating.
No.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys, you know, they like hair jigs. I mean, I like hair jigs too, but you know, they're in that same color, purple and green, and a monkey milk and chartreuse.
Oh, that's good. Cool. Well, I'll have to remember that. Yeah, the downsizing, I mean, I'm guilty too. Yeah. Get on fish and they don't want to bite, you just keep putting it in their face, putting it in their face, and you're thinking, well, eventually they're going to eat it. Well,
and they may.
Yeah, they may, but you might be better off to, you know, just move on.
And the funny thing about this is this tournament right here. So, it was funny the way that I found these fish. So, you know, this was definitely pre-live scope. We were in this little small area, and the wind was blowing terrible. So I went, you know, I had to go up, turn around, and come back down. Well, when I come back down, I had 1/4 ounce jig heads on with 3-inch Kalins. I'm talking about downsizing. And
okay, yeah, this is 1/4 inch jig heads.
1/4 ounce jig heads with 3-inch Kalins. Yeah, this was back in the day. This was before
stripers.
Yeah, this was before you actually could see what a fish actually does.
Right.
And so I went up, you know, the tin can. I had the 10 boat, and slapping. Well, I went up, and when I come back, I just had the rod setting out, and I was running about 2 miles an hour, and all of a sudden the rod just went like this, and I thought, what in the world is going on? And it was a 2-pound crappie.
Oh, nice.
And then I went a little farther, and it was the biggest crappie I've ever caught in my life. Was a 288.
Wow.
And that's how we kind of, yeah, a 288 from High Rock, and I've seen, excuse me, I've probably seen, I would say 20 3-pounders on live scope, and I have not yet to catch one of them.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was, you know, talking about downsizing, and then we actually was able to win this tournament on some big old baits, you know, but they were moving. So who knows what these I guess that's another thing that keeps everybody going on the crappie, because, you know, they'll be there one day, and then the next day or 2 days, 3 days later, they're gone.
Right.
You know, so that keeps everybody on point.
Yeah, that would for sure. I mean, they will humble you. You know, you go out 3 days and you think, man, I got these things patterned. Me and my buddy, we're gonna go out tomorrow, and we're gonna fill the cooler. And you get over there, and it's a humbling experience.
It definitely is.
Yeah. Well, with our time we got left, one of the things I wanted to circle back to is the Yadkin River Crappie Trail. So tell us a little bit about what's coming up with the Crappie Trail this fall.
So our first tournament will be September 28th. You know, you can look us up on Facebook, or you can friend me on Facebook, Newell, Newell Montgomery, and the September 28th. Like I say, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 trails in North Carolina. And all of them, you know, are a great way to get involved in tournament crappie fishing. And like I say, a lot of people have that mentality of, man, I can't compete, but you know, we waste money on so much stuff. You know, like going out to eat and eating stuff that we don't do. What's $100 a month or something like that? I mean, I know it's a lot. Don't get me wrong, but the friendships, the community, just having somebody, if you're down, you know, down and out, kind of bummed out, just have somebody you can talk to about fishing. You know, that's the whole thing that has really just kept me in the drive to do it. You know, there's been times that I'm like, man, I've you know, don't want to do this anymore. But then my buddy's like, man, what are you talking about? You know, and like,
get down here and let's go fishing.
Get down here and go fishing. Boy, and it lights a spark again. Like, you know, so just the tournament, you know, this will be our 6th year. We have great group of guys. You know, there's other great group of guys fishing other trails. And if you don't fish ours, fish one of the other ones. I mean, you make such great friendships. Like, I wouldn't even have met you. I mean, we may have met somewhere, but you and Riley come to a weigh-in.
Right, we did
and that was the first time that I met you, and here we are now. You know, so like we haven't seen each other. You know, we follow each other on Facebook and stuff.
But it's probably been a year or so. Yeah,
but then the commonality that we have between us. You know, we're talking about fishing, so we're like, you know, we've known each other for 25 years.
We're not going to run out of stuff to talk about.
No,
for sure.
Right. So that's the ultimate thing for me, is just the brotherhood.
Sure.
And you know, just having somebody there that, you know, we a lot of us have great wives, but man, they don't want to talk about fishing all the time.
No, my wife's about done talking about fishing.
Yeah. So we you know, so you got you get that, you get them few people that you can talk to, man, and it just lifts your spirit.
It
Correct.
does.
Yeah.
I agree. You know, that's one of the things I really like about doing this is get to, you know, just talk with people about fishing. And you know, if you're not going fishing, the next best thing is talking to people about going fishing.
Correct.
That's about the next. That's just right there with it.
And you know, then you got people that don't fish and like, hey, will you bring me some fillets? How much you charge me? Like, well, I got about 500. We'll do $4.99 a pound. You know,
right?
Because all the money that we have involved in fishing, but yet.
Now don't tell everybody.
Yeah.
So the trail starts September 28th, and that's a high rock event.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, goes all the way through March, and that's what most of them in the fall do. Go through March,
September to March.
Correct. Okay. And you know, if any, I mean, there's local trails. I mean, maybe this might reach somebody in Arkansas or something. This podcast. There's local trails that you can just get involved in to have something to look forward to. You know, we worked all summer in the heat, and man, it's time to fish. You know what I mean?
September, yeah, boy. Tell you what, that lake starts thinning out because the kids going back to school and college football and deer season, and yeah, boy, that's when it gets good.
And then you know, now that live scopes come out, you know, there's still that fine line between love and hate. People don't like it or they love it, you know. But when you take somebody non-live scoping for the first time,
right?
There's one guy that I took to baiting, he'll know who I'm talking about. He was definitely anti-live scope. But then when he caught and saw, you know, those fish sitting there sometimes, man, he was hooked. So that's the whole thing. You know, if you don't feel like you can, you know, if you feel intimidated by crappie fishing or tournament crappie fishing, just get to know some of the guys, man. They'll take you and say, hey, this is what I use. Let me show you. You know, let's talk about this. Why aren't you catching them? You know, and like I say, I'm no professional by no means, but I just love, you know, the brotherhood and the tournaments.
Yeah, and now don't let him fool you about not being a professional.
No. Like I say, I'm not a competitive person at all, but you know, I do when I get out there. You know, I love to see them fish and catch them, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Well, before we get ready to close things out today on our podcast, and I'm already looking forward to doing the next one, whenever that is. But before we wrap this one up, is there anything that maybe I haven't set you up to talk about that you'd like to share? Or
so Shane and I brought this. This is probably, you know, we fished this and won this tournament. We won $5,000 in this tournament. That was the most money that I personally have ever won in anything. You know, like, so this was a great memory. This one was a great memory. Probably two of my most favorite. You know, my most favorite memories. But you know, I got to thinking the other day. You know, when you asked me to do this a while back, I'm like, I don't know what in the world to talk about. You know, like, I was so nervous. You know, I felt like I come in here, these cameras set up, I felt like I was getting interrogated. You know, but this has been really fun. But, you know, it got me to thinking, you know, I have no idea where this $5,000 went. You know, I have no idea where this money went. You know, when I pass away, you know, I'm not going to remember where that $5,000 went. You know, when I'm on my deathbed, I'm going to remember my fishing buddies. You know, like these plaques right here were probably in a box somewhere, if not donated or throw in the trash from my kids, my grandkids. You know, so but the memories that you have, you know, of the brotherhood and that's what crappie fishing is to me. I mean, seriously, like, you know, I've been fortunate to be on the Catch the Fever Pro staff and they are a great company to work with, but still just the brotherhood is no questions asked the reason that I'm still in it. Is, you know, and I know we've talked about that a lot, but like I say,
that's good. No,
you know, just like, you know, this is just material stuff laying here. It'll do us no good when we are on our deathbed, just like if we don't know Jesus. I mean, you know, it's going to definitely be an eye opener, and so I hope that somebody, you know, that's maybe they can get something out of this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, you know, I know the podcast, you know, we mostly about fishing and so forth, but yeah, just having a relationship with Jesus is really where it's at. And you know, the Bible talks about that's Romans 6:23 says the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life through Christ Jesus our Lord. And that's really where it's at. Fishing's fun, fishing's great, love the brotherhood, love the camaraderie, the stories, sometimes a little smack talking, you know, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, when it comes down to it, I mean, you know, faith is something that's going to last, it's going to endure. So appreciate you sharing that today, and appreciate you coming and being with us today.
Yeah, man, I appreciate the invite. You know,
yeah, absolutely, it's
been
fun.
Some good dudes that here. Yeah, you know, so it's definitely. I was like, when I looked at that. When you texted me, I was like, is he wanting to talk to me?
He got the wrong number?
I was like, he got the wrong number, but man, I really do. Like, my heart is for all of us just to get together and just, you know, work out our differences and just be that brotherhood, no matter what state it's in. You know, right quick, you know, kind of going back, you know, I've been to Mississippi, I've been to Alabama, I've been to Missouri fishing with Freddie and and the first Wally Marshall tournament, you know, the big deal. We come in 31st, so I was tickled to death with that. We made just a few ounces out of the day 3 cut, and, but yeah, just that, you know, that anywhere that we went, man, it's like, you know, the crappie fishing community is just amazing. Just like you know, your congregation. I mean, you know, you come together to have that. Like we talked about, that likeness.
Yeah, sure.
So
absolutely. Well, as we kind of wrap things up today, so reach out to Newell if there's anything that he can help you with. I'm sure he'd be glad to do that. So again, just look him up on Facebook. Yadkin River Crappie Trail. Make sure I'm saying that right. Yes. They're also on Facebook. You can get on there or check with Newell. You know, you can get the schedule for that, and you know, sign up, fish a tournament. You know, come hang out, or just do like I did, just come to the weigh-in. You can do that too. You know, or if that tournament doesn't work for you, there's a lot of them, you know, out and about. I mean, there's some different ones where, you know, wherever you may live, there's some that are during the week, all sorts of things. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Appreciate you watching. Don't forget, if you want to listen to us in the audio podcast format, you can do that. Just check us out, Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. And
I need to like this video
like this
more,
one, especially
more than Chris and all the other ones that have come on here. You know, like we got. You know, I'd say I'm not competitive, but, you know, hit that.
If he had one more like than Chris Miller, that would not. I mean, he would not be sad. That's what I'm saying.
Like that would be. You know, that would definitely be the icing on the cake.
That's it. All right. Thank y'all for watching.